Today what I want to do is I want to work with actually 4 forms of perspective. I'm going to do isometric perspective first, then I will do a 1-point perspective, then we'll do 2-point perspective, and then we'll do 3-point perspective. So I'm going to start with isometric perspective. Now this tool right here, a triangle, a 60, 30-degree triangle, is helpful, but if you don't have one, you can do this freehand. You just have to keep some things in mind. So I'm going to start at the baseline, and I'm going to draw lightly, I'm just going to draw those 30 degrees, and I'm going to draw up vertically. Just want a vertical line going up, and I'll go over here to this point here vertically, and so I'm going to switch over to a ruler. We'll take a ruler here, and if you had a T-square, you just slide your degrees. So I'm gonna bring it down here and keep it at the same degree. So these two lines need to be parallel. This line and this line needs to be parallel. So taking my triangle, if I'm doing this mechanically, I'd make my line here. I can go up. I need to keep these two lines parallel to one another. So I'll draw a parallel line here. And actually I can do the rest. So from here, you can see we slide this up parallel. I can go from here. Well, kind of look at this one, or I can just slide this, kind of gradually slide it up, trying to as best as possible to keep it parallel. And then from here on this side, I'm just going to slide that up this way and keep it parallel. So the whole idea is that this line is parallel, this line and this line is parallel, this line and this line. All the lines opposite each other, they stay parallel. So I'm just going to make it darker so we can see it, just in case we can't see it in the camera. I'll use this marker. This type of perspective is good to give you the feeling of 3D, but it also lets you see that it's pretty easy. I'm going to draw one freehand too, so you can see what I would do in freehand. In video games, this would be the way to go, because if you want to make a drawing so that you can see everything and all the detail, this is the way to go, and still make it look like it's 3-dimensional. So that's 3-dimensional. So this one is isometric perspective, and the idea is that this line and this line, these two lines are parallel. These two stay parallel, and these two right here, they stay parallel to each other. So if you were making a quick drawing in isometric, let's Grab a sheet of paper. Isometric perspective. You can make a quick box, kind of just looking at the space like that. That's it. Nice. And the closer you get to the object, the closer you are to an object, it'll look more like it's isometric. So if you want to make something look 3D, you can just quickly draw something in isometric. That's freehand. Now we're going to do what we call one-point perspective. And I'm going to start with some boxes. I'm going to do this freehand. So the first thing that I need to do is I need a horizon line. So I'll make it a horizon line. In fact, I'll make it with this. I'll use this red pen here. So I'll make a horizon line like that. And I'll make a box. Let's say if I make a box over here. This is below the horizon. And let's make one above the horizon. So this would be like if it's up in the air. And let's make one, maybe, yeah, that's good, these two right here. So I'm going to switch over to a pencil. And, oh, before I do that, let me mark. We need a vanishing point. So X marks the spot. We'll make a vanishing point. And from this point right here, I'm going to make a line that goes to the box. Here. To the edge corner of the box here. And to this side of the box. Right there. Now the difference, and then I'll do the same thing on the lower one. Here. Here. And right there. Now, for one-point perspective, one thing that's similar to the other drawing that we did in isometric is that the lines still stay parallel, and these lines stay vertical. So these lines are going to stay vertical, and this line right here, so if I move this line up, I'm going to try to keep that parallel, and the same thing here. So if you take your ruler and just kind of slide it over like that and keep it parallel. Here, slide this over and keep that parallel. It's good to have this clear ruler because I can see what's going on through the ruler. Through the ruler there. So now I have my boxes. I'm just defining these boxes. These lines, if you were making a drawing, you wouldn't keep those lines. Those are guidelines. But it lets you see how everything goes back to a point. So this one's below the line, so you see the top of the box. This one's above the line, so you see what's going on underneath the box right here. This line shouldn't slant down or slant this way or that way. This is good, say if you're doing a video game, this is good because you can hide things. That the further back, if I were to make a box back here, it's keeping this vertical line, vertical, going across, trying to keep that, okay, here, here. So the further back I go, the less you'll be able to see. So if I'm making buildings and things, the further back, it's going to be harder to see it. So this is 1 point. This is 1 point perspective. Everything goes back to 1 point, to one vanishing point. And this is just free-handed, free. You don't have to draw. You could draw with a ruler, make it prettier, but that's freehand. Just for the camera, I'll show you the guidelines. I'll make them in green, so with dashed lines going back. So you can see they go back in space this way, like that. So you can see now everything would go back, and everything would work like this. You're drawing a face with glasses on it. Think about it, it's going to go back in perspective. Sometimes I forget that. I have the face going in perspective, and then I forget the glasses should be in perspective. So you can see that this is just 1 point perspective. So now we'll switch over. We're going to do 2 point perspective. Okay, so I already drew the horizon line again. Now 2 point perspective is almost like it sounds. We're going to have 2 vanishing points. So I'm going to put a vanishing point here, and I'll put a vanishing point over here, and I'll put a little dot. That's my vanishing point. And I like to make a kind of like make it look like a little bit of a design. So I'll start out with a line, vertical line. I'm going to start with a vertical line here, and kind of make it look like a little bit more of like a design. I'll make a vertical line here. Now, sometimes you have a drawing where you need to show the corner of a building or a corner of a square. So this is the best way to do that. So I start out with these 2 verticals, and I'm going to do this in pencil, then I'll go back in. I'm going to go from here back to this vanishing point, like that, and then the same thing here down at the bottom to the vanishing point. Then I'll go to this side right here. This is the other side. Now when you're making drawings, your vanishing points may not fit on the page. They may be way off the page somewhere. So you have to kind of like imagine where they're going. So there's a vanishing point. Now we'll go up to the top and do the same. It's the same thing, it's just repetitive. So I'll do this at the top, and manage my line here. These are my guidelines. Line here. Line here. A line here. I like to think of these like a chevron form, or like they used to have the gas station called Chevron gas station, or the Chevy car. They had this kind of like this shape, looks like a boomerang. So now the line is not going to go in or out. It's going to go the back line. I'm going to move the line here over, and keeping these 2 lines parallel to each other. And I have this guideline here, so I can use I can just go ahead and draw with pen. Same thing here. I'm going to go from here and slide this over. And in some respects, it seems like you're doing more, but it can be easier to do 2-point than 1-point in some instances. Slide it over here. And then slide that over to there. Now let's go ahead, since we know where the base of this is, I can go ahead and commit. I always like to draw light and then commit later. So here, I'll show you what I think is usually the tricky part. And then here, like that. Now we're almost there. The only thing we need to do now is, and this is something to remember, where you don't rush it, we're going to take this vanishing point and we're going to go to the opposite side of the box over here. So from here, I'm going to draw that line there. From here, this side, we'll do the same thing here. It's the opposites. We're going to draw a line to the opposite sides. So here to the vanishing point, the opposite side, and then here to the opposite side of the box. And the vanishing point. So if you notice the back line, the back corner, I didn't have to draw. It's like geometry. Once I draw across and across, I automatically get my back point. So we'll make that, now that I know where I'm going, I can commit. Now your lines, see? Now you can see that these lines are converging. They're converging back to this vanishing point. These two lines right here are converging back to that vanishing point. What they're not doing is, like these three lines right here, these are parallel because they're straight up and down. They're parallel. Here, that one. And there. So there we have it. And just to make it easier for you to see in the video, I'll show you the guidelines. I'll just freely draw these. And so these lines here go back to the vanishing point. What's good about this being in the video is that so this is 2 points because we have a point here and then we have a point here, and everything converges back to these points like this. So in some cases you may have a drawing that has objects going back into one point or showing the sides this way, or you may have a corner of a building where you need to show things in 2 point. Now the thing is, now how does our natural eye see things? Because unless you have a computer with Photoshop, and if you were taking pictures of buildings, they wouldn't go up straight like this, right? They would move in perspective. So these lines will move in perspective. So that's when you need 3-point perspective. So you can use, in a quick drawing or an idea, you want to show something, especially an engineering drawing, you may want to use isometric perspective. Sometimes you may want to use 1-point perspective to show an idea. And sometimes you want to show a corner of a building or something like that, you may want to use this 2-point perspective. Same thing, I could make a cylinder in here, I can draw that circle in here. It helps me to draw my ellipses better. So it gives me an idea of how my ellipses should be done in perspective, in the correct perspective, by defining this perspective like this first. And especially the base, where you can see going through. If I were going through, I would go through to the bottom and go through the bottom edge, and then you would see that this angle of view would be bigger than the upper angle of view. Okay, so here we're going to do 3-point. We're going to do 3-point. And I'm going to start out right now. You'll see that I have my 2 points like we did before. We had 2 points. But we need to be able to see the object in different ways. So I want to now put in a 3rd point. And I'm just going to make it easy for you to start, I'm going to put a point right here. So I'm going to put a vanishing point right there. I don't want to make this complicated right now. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to start my first line down here. Actually, I can start. There's a lot of ways you can start this. But for you, I'll do it this way. So let's say we're going to do the corner of a building. And I'll just keep this corner of this time centered with that line at the top. Now, like I say, I could make it a little bit more complicated. I can move it to the left or to the right. So I have this line here. So now, just like I did before, I need to make that, we said, that chevron shape. And I'll just decide where I want it. If I bring the box above the horizon line, you won't be able to see the top of the box. So I'm going to bring it below the horizon. Here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make these dark. And same here. Make this dark. I'm going to go over to this side. These are just guidelines. If you're drawing just with pencil, or if you're making your drawing, you're not going to do it like this. This is just so that you can see it. These lines would be very light, extremely light. They're just for guidelines, but I'm doing this for you. Now, before, let's take a look at the 2-point perspective. With the 2-point perspective, we made the lines go straight. We just drew them straight. But now we're making them 3-point. We're making it into a 3-point perspective. So the way the eye sees things is going to see things more like this. It's going to converge. So if I have a point here at the bottom, and I'll draw this line here, and I'm going to do this other side of the box. So these lines are going up like this. See, this looks like a pyramid already. It looks like a pyramid. Now, the same thing that we did with the 2-point perspective. We're going to take this line and bring it to the opposite side over here. That ends over here. To the opposite side. So, just so that you can see it better, the actual box. It's right here. And I'm gonna, just to show you that this really comes in handy for drawing things like, somebody said, oh, I want you to draw a keyboard. You could use this. You can add more right next to each other. So here, here, like that. Just to show you that these are just, we'll make these into hash marks so that you can see that these are just guidelines. These are only guidelines. So these lines here are just, if you were drawing, making a drawing to make yourself something like this, it would be, so if I wanted another box right next to it, adjacent to it, we go up to that vanishing point again, swing it over from the vanishing point like that, and then for the opposite side I go over here to the vanishing point, and here to the vanishing point. Now already I have the back of the box. So what about this stuff that's going on in here? Well, you have to, I always used to say, you got to act like you're Superwoman or Superman. You got to make believe that you can see through the box. In our case, I draw the line. See, I went right through the box. Here's that point where these 2 points intersect. Go to my vanishing point, go to that point right there, and draw the line down. So now I can see this point, this point, this point. I'm moving things around and things start to change. That's why I didn't start the box this way, because it makes it a little bit hard to see. So now, if I had a box behind that, and we can keep going back, further back, We'll make this with green. So here, see, I don't have to fake it now. See, I know I can see through that, but I don't have to draw that. But I don't have to have this going up here, going down here like that, because I can see through the box, because we have super X-ray vision. Using our X-ray vision, we can do this. Bam, there you go, like that. And I know it looks real easy. But so often when we make mistakes, and they're usually like really very simple mistakes. And most of the time with drawing, this is the critical area right here. We don't think that we have to see through something. Even if you're drawing a figure, you need to be able to see through it. I wouldn't say, I'm going to draw the outside skin. I need to make believe I can see through it, like I can see the bones behind it. So here, you can see right through it. I can always take this out, but this helps me to make this right. So here, 1, 2, 3 points. No particular order, but they go to this horizon line. Now, if you just switch it around, so you can flip it over. Sometimes you may have a situation where you have things floating up in the air, and you're down on the ground, and you want to make it look like you're looking up to something like this. You can do that. So you can really, you can play around with the, visually play around with the space. So you can bring this up to the top, depending on where you are, where your vanishing points are. So if I'm at the ground here, if I'm down here, then my vanishing point will be up here. If I'm up in the air, then my vanishing point will be down below. It's the opposite. So see that over here. So we're going to see some interesting things when we go inside, when we make some perspective drawings where you're inside of a building versus being on the outside. So with this little person, it's always important, the placement of this little person. In this case, we had this person right here. So he's looking at the building, he's seeing equal on each side. But now, when he looks at this side, he sees more of this side and less of this side. Okay, so that is our 3-point perspective. Now, you can watch me do it. It's not good to just watch me do it. You need to do it yourself. Practice yourself.